Welcome everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and today I have a Funny Friday card for you featuring the Art Impressions stamps and die set, and this is called Cheers My Dears, and it features these two fun ladies. They also have a matching die that fits really nice and close to the image. I was really thrilled when I got my set and I measured it up to the Simon Says Stamp French doors dies, and they fit perfectly so that I can have some open doors with my ladies peeking from behind. I've stamped my ladies onto some Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, and I've used our very low-tech tape to hold the die in place for die cutting. I'll be watercoloring my images, and I'm using the Tim Holtz watercolor pencils set 1 and 3. It had the perfect greens and reds that I needed for this image. So what I'm doing is just dipping my paintbrush in a little bit of water, and I'm running it over the tip of the pencil to pick up some color. If I want more intense color, I'll rub my brush back onto the pencil tip. And I do want to say that you want to get the tip of the pencil wet so it can start releasing the color. I've also mixed a couple colors of the pencils together to get some darker variation of the same color. So here I have Rusty Hinge and Walnut Stain, and I'm adding some darker color to her red hair. Once I have everything painted, I'm going back in with a T1 and T3 Copic marker, and this is just giving me some shading in some of those white areas, and it gives them a little more depth and dimension. And then I can go back in with a white gel pen and add some highlights and details to some of the areas. And now I'm ready for some construction, so I'll be die cutting the French doors into a panel of the Tim Holtz gray Woodgrain cardstock. I've cut an additional panel of white cardstock and I'll be clipping the doors out. They're designed with an embossing line on the outside so that the doors stay in place but yet open on your card. But I want to have these separate to have some white trim on my doors. I'll be adding some acetate behind the doors, and right now I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue, and I'm just adding dots of glue on the back of the panels. And now I can lay the panels right onto a piece of acetate, and I'm just going right up to the edge so I have less to cut out. Once these are dry, I'll be using some larger scissors and I'll just cut around the outside edge of the door and trim off that excess acetate. Next, I'll add some glue again to the back of the doors, just on all those rails, and I'll flip this over and I can glue this in place on each side of the door that's cut from the wood grain cardstock. With the front of my doors in place, it's time to add the panel to my cardstock, and I've added some foam tape. And this is the point where you want to open your doors and make sure you get a good crease on those doors so they open freely. I've run my foam tape right up to the edge of that score line so that this will be nice and sturdy when I put it on my card. So once I've peeled off the backing in the center, I'll put this right onto an A2 side folding card. And then I can remove the outside strips of the backing from my foam tape. I've added some foam tape to the back of my ladies, and right now I can open my doors and place them so that everything moves freely and they're centered and placed right where I want them. I'll be adding a little bit of greenery to the outside of my doors, so I have cut some green cardstock using the Tim Holtz Modern Festive dies, and I'll be attaching these as a swag just at the top of the doors. And I'll be using Simon Says Stamp glue just on the centerpiece of those pine needles, and I can affix those in place. And for the berries, I'm using the Tim Holtz Christmas Droplets, and I'm just using the red color. And I'm making sure that these don't interfere with opening of the door, so I have 2 on one side and 1 on the other. And to finish this card off, I've white embossed the Cheers My Dears message onto some red cardstock and added a little green bow, and I've placed it in the center to where you can still see the ladies' faces through the door. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of a Funny Friday using the Art Impressions Cheers My Dears stamps and dies. I would love to have these gals visit my house over the holidays. Be sure to check the description box below for a link to all the supplies and the blog post. And as always, thanks so much for watching.
Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.